From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 2 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk. The McLaughlin Group is brought to you by Pharma, new medicines, new hope. And by the people of America's oil and natural gas industry. Learn more at energytomorrow.org.
Issue 1, Independence Day.
It's in the Washington air. The next president of the United States could be neither a Democrat nor a Republican. An independent might win. The stage is set for many reasons, including the one-year-old Unity 08 Internet movement. Other variables are mass, leading with the recent Gallup poll that says the electorate is split into 3 self-identified one-thirds. Republicans, 27%. Democrats, 34%. Independents, 38%. Now for the bad news for independents. They have not fared well throughout U.S. history. 2000, Ralph Nader, Green Party, 3% of the popular vote, 0 electoral votes. 2000, Pat Buchanan, Reform Party, 0.4% popular vote, 0 electoral. 1992, Ross Perot, Independent, 19% popular vote, 0 electoral. 1980, John Anderson, Independent, 7% of the popular vote, 0 electoral. 1968, George Wallace, American Independent Party, 14% popular, 46 electoral. 1948, Strom Thurmond, States Rights Democratic Party, a.k.a. Dixiecrat, 2% popular, 39 electoral. 1912, Theodore Roosevelt, United States Progressive Party, a.k.a. Bull Moose Party, 27% popular, 88 electoral.
Pat, you top the list, providing that we turn it upside down. Does an independent candidate stand a chance in 2008?
Of winning, I would say no, John. But look, you take my votes alone, which are only about 500,000, and you add them to Bush in Wisconsin and Iowa and New Mexico and Oregon, he would have won all 4 states in the election without Florida. If Ralph Nader had been out, Gore would have been home free and easily. So a third-party candidate cannot win, in my judgment, because both parties have mainstream candidates, and both parties will get 35% of the vote each. I think it's almost solid. I don't care who's in there, and there's not enough left to beat them. But a third-party candidate can have an enormous influence on which of the 2 main party candidates wins, depending on whether that candidate comes from the populist right, which would really damage and I think sink the Republicans for sure, or let's say the Bloomberg left with a social liberal anti-war type like that who could sink the Democratic Party. So third parties could be critical, but I cannot believe a third party candidate can win the presidency of the United States, a majority of the electoral vote.
Well stated.
Yeah.
Eleanor?
The Electoral College is so stacked against a third party. But this year is very different. First of all, there is widespread dissatisfaction with both parties. There really is no anointed candidate in either party. And if the parties do not nominate somebody who is seen as within the mainstream, and I think the possibility that the Republicans are going to veer way off course is there. And I think there's an opening for a firebrand from the right. And because the nominees of the 2 major parties will be locked down so early in the season, by February 5, you have that long period of time, and I think there's an opening for a dream ticket, and the ticket you hear is Bloomberg-Hagel.
Leslie, what do you think?
I think third-party candidates are great for the system. I think they strengthen both parties, conservative, Democrat. But that being said, the system is stacked against them. It's exactly what Eleanor said. You've got an electoral college. They would have to get 34% in all of these states, and it's really not foreseeable. In addition to that, any good ideas that are creative, vetted solutions that a third-party candidate has, they're going to be absorbed by Republicans or Democrats. You saw it in 1992 with the Ross Perot that came out, and all of those voters pretty much swung back to the Republican Party in an earthquake election of 1994 with Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. Those were tested themes people believed in, and they knew what they were doing.
There has to be a reform, I guess, to activate the candidacy of an independent.
There also has to be something to reform. In other words, there has to be a galvanizing issue out there.
There has to be robber barons.
And the regular parties are failing to answer the call. Yeah, robber barons, that was how Teddy Roosevelt launched his, the most successful third party we've seen in the last century.
So you need a radical reformer.
Right. Well, what's the big issue right now? I think it's the war. And if the Republican and the Democratic candidate fail to come forth with something that's going to galvanize the voters, then they're going to turn to a third voice. But is Bloomberg and Hagel going to do that? Is anybody else going to produce that kind of a strong alternative?
What about things like energy, with the gas prices up, and making the oil and gas companies whipping boys? What about health care?
Won't do it. The Democrats will be very good on
What
health.
about China trade?
Well,
Isn't all of that developable?
Now you're talking. There are three issues, John. One, secure the border, stop exporting our jobs, bring the troops home. That is populist, center-right. There's a real constituency for that this time, because I disagree with Eleanor. I think the Republicans, if you pick one out of four, Thompson, Romney, Giuliani, or McCain, they're very moderate Republicans, and so they don't split off.
Those aren't the ones I was thinking of. But if you pick Giuliani, doesn't that open the door for a right-to-life candidate?
That opens the door for a right-wing Republican, exactly.
Right,
What did Wallace run against?
Civil
rights?
Wallace ran against professors, he ran against the elites, he ran against the judges.
But he and Thurman, briefcase-carrying bureaucrats in Washington.
Yeah. He's going to run over the demonstrators with his limousine.
Right.
But John, he and Thurman were regional candidates. That's why they got electoral votes. Both of them got the same share out of the under-South, if you will.
And they got absorbed by
the Buchanan run against?
Well, Buchanan, of course, is running as the candidate of the modern-day populist movement that is opposed to NAFTA, is in favor of a moratorium on immigration. Some of these are very hot issues. I don't know how Buchanan's position on the war would stand now, but you might have a chance, because your criticisms of the war have been similar to those of people.
You're not going to win. Even I don't believe that.
He ran 3 times, He ran twice as a Republican.
Right. That's right.
3 presidential runs. What did Nader run against?
What did Nader run against?
He ran against the system. He ran against corporate influence. And frankly, what the country wants now is somebody to get up there and offer some bold ideas. There is a sense that the two parties, they don't tackle any of the real issues, from climate change to the depression of wages of the middle class. Everybody's finding these little bite-sized positions to take. And, leadership is what I think there is an opening for. And now the two parties may provide that. And I want to point out the Democrats are 80% happy with their candidates. It's the Republicans who have a much bigger problem with their field.
I would argue that it's a very good thing. This is a healthy conversation to have. It's a realignment, a readjustment of the parties. Historically, they've done that. You go back to the idea also that you haven't had a serious electoral college strong, really a foundation for third-party candidates since 1860, when you saw the death of the Whig Party, and then basically the growth of the Republicans with Lincoln. But that being said, there really isn't an appetite for a third-party system because of the electoral college.
What percentage of the popular votes did Perot get?
Perot got 19%. But
what percent did Wallace get?
Wallace got 13, not 14.
How many electoral votes? He got 14% of the votes.
He got 5. He got 13. He got 5 states down there, John. But
and he picked up 5 states. How many electoral votes did
48, according to your
Perot
list.
get?
Perot got 0
electoral, but 19% of the vote.
He was a national candidate, John.
Wallace got 14% of the vote.
He's a regional candidate. Let me explain this to you. Listen, John. The point is that this thing can be done, but the problem is, let's take my votes in the 92 and 96. I got 3 million votes in Republican primaries and caucuses, where only 12 million or 9 million or 10 million voted. The point is that constituency goes home to the Republican Party. It goes home, and the Republican parties are loyalists, and they say, well, we don't like what they're thinking, but we're Republicans.
It may not always go home. That's the question we're addressing here. Exit question. Why do polls show most Americans say they are independent instead of Republican or Democrat? Pat Buchanan.
Look, I'm an independent conservative, but I'll tell you, if it gets down to it, it's always, you got to go in there. 2004, I'm for George Bush.
There's a sense that the parties parties are not performing, and there's a widespread dissatisfaction. And young people do not grow up thinking they're Republicans or Democrats. They think they're free agents, and they are.
I would point out to Eleanor that this could be what this is exhibiting is really a realignment in the making, and the Democrats, these so-called independents, are about to shift over to the Democrats because the Republicans are making such a hash of things.
Not necessarily.
What do you think? Do you think that this movement, this independent vote, is going to maintain itself? That is 38% the poll.
No, I don't think it'll maintain itself. I think they will call themselves independent, but they tend to be independent conservatives. They tend to move to the right on elections. You've seen these too close to call series of elections that happened at the turn of the last century. It's happening again now. It's cyclical in nature. And I would say this election is really the end of what I would call the Reagan era. People can debate that, but it's really this generation of individual conservatives, and the party is realigning what it feels is important.
One important point here, John, about these growing independents, and they have been growing because the old functions of the parties has been replaced in recent decades by TV, by the internet, et cetera. But American University, for example, their studies show that something like 85-90% of the folks who say they're independent now do vote for one party's candidate or the other consistently. Right. So they are swing voters, but about 90% pretty rigid, unless you move them because of some burning issue at the time.
All right. The answer is the reason why we have 38% of the American public polling as independent is because there is an emerging third party. When we come back, could Bloomberg shake up the race?
I lost my job and my health insurance. The first thought was, how am I going to get my medication I need? I was in a lot of trouble.
If you're uninsured and struggling, America's pharmaceutical companies want to help. Call 1-888-4PPA now to see if you may qualify.
PPA saves me $1,300 a month.
We've been to nearly 1,000 cities in all 50 states, helping more than 3 million people in need.
Without my wife and PPA, I don't know if I could have been here today.
The Partnership for Prescription Assistance, on the road to helping you.
It fuels our lives and creates the products we depend on. It powers our workforce. It brings us home and gives us warmth. It lets us travel the earth and reach for the sky. Vital for life, too precious to waste. Oil and natural gas. Together, let's use it wisely. Learn more at energytomorrow.org.
I've been hearing that SAP has business software for mid-sized companies. So naturally, I did what you'd expect. Had my hearing tested. Turns out I'm fine.
Issue 2 is the timing perfect.
2008 is brewing into what may become the perfect political storm. Prevailing conditions favor an independent or third-party run at the presidency. 1. Right track, wrong track, way off track. 73% of Americans say the country is going in the wrong direction. 73%, an exceptionally negative view in a critical poll. Anti-incumbency zeitgeist. President Bush and the Senate and the House of Representatives all have approval ratings in the 30s or below. The public wants fresh faces. 3, a pox on both your houses. Voters are fed up with the red state, blue state designation and duality, with neither Republicans nor Democrats healing the breach. Color us different. 4, partisan backbiting. Both parties have failed to bring originality to their thinking on vital issues like health care, Social Security reform, energy approaches, and immigration realism.
We do not want a compromise.
5, anti-globalist backlash, outsourcing, and immigration have alienated the conservative middle class and the liberal labor unions. In 92, Perot got his thrust from NAFTA backlash. Today's independent gains from globalism backlash. 6, 2008 front-loaded primaries. Some 27 states are voting on their presidential nominees on or before February 5, Super Tuesday. By then, that's February 5, 08, 8 months from now, the world will know whom the Democrats and Republicans have chosen as their presidential nominees. Between then, February 5, 08, and November 08, voters will have 9 full months to find flaws with the Republican and Democratic nominees, during which time an independent may be waiting in the wings to seize and conquer center stage.
Question: what sequence of events would favor a viable presidential independent candidacy? Eleanor Clift.
Look, it depends who the major parties nominate, and if both parties nominate one of or two of the 6 front runners, I don't think you could make the case that there's room for a centrist ticket. I think you can make the case that none of the existing candidates might be bold enough to address the issues of the country, but I look at Barack Obama, he's talking about issues in a different way, so he fills one of the vacuums that people clamoring for a third ticket want. So I don't see much room except for that long period of time. Plus the fact you've got Al Gore hovering out there, you've got Fred Thompson, Newt Gingrich, you've got all these people still waiting. So there's an insurance policy with the Unity 08, which is an internet convention. So I think there will be an independent ticket, but I don't necessarily see it, you know, capturing the imagination.
Can we postulate here that polarizing candidates will create a vacuum in the middle? And is Hillary, can we postulate that? No. If we postulate that, is Hillary polarizing? Is Obama polarizing by reason of we've never had an African American in there?
Let me tell you how you get your third party candidate. If you nominate 3 social liberals from New York, Giuliani, Hillary, and Bloomberg, you have a wide open track.
What about Obama?
Well, Obama's big advantage is that he appears to be fresh and new
Is the bloom off that unifier rose?
Oh, not even. No, you've got, the voters don't even start getting serious about these things till after Labor Day, so it's way too early to say anybody's
Hold on, Ellen. Giuliani, I want to ask you this. Giuliani and McCain and Romney are all pro-Iraq war, okay? So they are themselves polarizing, are they not? And that on that side creates a vacuum, does it not?
Well, you got the other side. The other side will have an anti-war candidate.
Exactly right. And you have to look at the fact, a lot of this is speaking to the base. I mean, think about how candidates progress in their positions to open up and appeal more to independent conservatives and open-minded swing voters. You're not going to see that until probably a year from now. You know, after they nominate the candidates, then you will see.
McCain is also polarized.
The Nixon
because
rule.
He's pro.
McCain is following the Nixon plan. Nixon said Republicans run to the right in the primaries and then move back to the center as fast as you can.
Right.
Hillary and the others, Barack Obama, are on the left. They will be running back to the center when they're nominated.
They're even that far left right now.
And Hillary is being accused by the left of the party of being a sellout, and she is sponsoring so much legislation with Republicans on Capitol Hill. It's hard. I think it's really hard to say that she's out of the mainstream.
The supposition here is that both parties will nominate candidates that are too polarizing. Exit question: is there a solid possibility that both the Democrats and the Republicans could nominate candidates that are too polarizing, Pat? You don't think so?
Republicans got 5 candidates? No, neither of them. Both of them got mainstream candidates for their party.
There's probably somebody out there with a lot of money and a big ego who will run even if the candidates are not polarizing.
It has to be mass appeal, and that's what Republicans have.
Right. You need that strong personality and a strong issue. I don't think they're out there.
Polarization is rampant. Issue 3, the billion-dollar man.
Michael Rubens Bloomberg, Democrat turned Republican, mayor of New York City, born Massachusetts, age 64, net worth $5.3 billion. Daily transportation to work, the subway. Salary, $1 a year at his own wish. Residence, a townhouse, east side of New York, refusing to live in Gracie Mansion, the mayor's residence. His home telephone number? In the Manhattan directory. Mayor Bloomberg worked for 15 years at Solomon Brothers. They fired Bloomberg. He then proceeded to found his own company, Bloomberg LP, and through it created the Bloomberg box to collect, analyze, and deliver securities information faster than any other service. His operation now includes news delivery, radio, TV, internet, and publishing operations. Politically, he is pro-choice, pro-gun control, pro-gay rights, pro-immigration reform, and strongly anti-Iraq. He describes the probability of making a bid into the 2008 presidential race with these words: how likely is it a 5'7" Jew from New York, billionaire, who's divorced and running as an independent to become president of the United States? Unquote.
Question: does Bloomberg fit the profile of a third-party presidential candidate, Leslie Sanchez?
He's going to have mass appeal, but he's not a realistic candidate if he goes the third-party route. It's not foreseeable.
He's at ideological odds with his party. He's anti-Iraq war. He's a very wealthy candidate, and he's had track record in government. He's tailor-made.
You've got a
He's
track record.
left wing, John. He's a left winger. He puts at risk Hillary Rodham Clinton's presidency.
He doesn't come across as a left winger.
Oh, the heck he doesn't. Have you listened to him?
My Republican eyes.
He is a Republican, but I don't care what he calls himself. He is very appealing across the board. He's very good, and if you were going to hire somebody to run the country, he'd be at the top of my list.
One
but we already have a couple of CEOs
vote,
in the race. I think he would because he's competent. People are yearning for competence.
Why doesn't Hillary bait him or anyone else that thinks that he or she can get the nomination, get it, and offer him the vice presidential slot? Would he go for that and just get out of what he appears to be thinking about?
No need for that yet.
John. Okay, dream team.
It's a great country to think about a New York boy and a Nebraska boy to be teamed up leading this nation.
Senator Chuck Hagel, Republican of Nebraska, recently raised the possibility of running with Mayor Michael Bloomberg in 2008 on an independent presidential ticket. Wolf Blitzer asked Bloomberg what he thought about running with Hagel.
He's doing the right thing. He's out there trying to give the public more choice.
Now time for a party number 3.
There's nothing magical about 2. The public wants to have people that have experience and that clearly state what they're going to do and then are willing to have themselves held accountable after they get elected for delivering what they promised. We tried that with a scorecard here.
What's your status?
I'm not a candidate for president.
Question: is that a Tecumseh Sherman-esque statement that he just made? I'm not a candidate for president, Clarence?
Well, of course. I mean, he'd love to be a candidate for president. The time is not right at this moment, but he'd love to see somebody pave the way. The idea of a Bloomberg-Hagel ticket is very attractive for a lot of different reasons. Yeah, because Bloomberg does have the image of being a good manager. Hagel, a guy with war experience and won't get us into another mess, presumably. All those are strong.
You heard about Bloomberg being capable of putting $1 billion into the race. $1 billion.
That's right.
You think if Hagel is at the and you're saying if Hagel is at the top of the ticket, you think he'd fork up $1 billion to get Hagel elected president?
Well, I didn't say Hagel at the top of the ticket. No, Bloomberg-Hagel. Bloomberg would be at the top of the ticket.
What do you think of that?
He's going to need more than $1 billion, and he ain't going to spend it to put Chuck Hagel and run for VP.
Yeah. Well, $1 billion can make a difference, and I think we really just don't know what kind of an impact he could have. But I don't know if he'd want to get in just to make a point. He could make points about issues, but I think he wouldn't get in unless he really thinks he has a shot at winning. I don't think it's impossible.
The Democrats get New York now. You put Bloomberg up there, I think you put New York in play, possibly the Republicans could take it. That's going to be the effect.
Well, what are we saying more than we're saying here?
I'm saying you bring a third party in there, and they can affect the outcome, but they ain't going to win the election.
Bloomberg is not going to do it if he's going to hand the election to the Republicans. He doesn't want to be a Ralph Nader and spend the rest of his life in ignominy.
I would say if he wants to make a point, he can write an op-ed. I mean, we know he can wire transfer the money into the campaign, but money money has proven historically not to be the only thing to win elections. You've got a viral movement on the internet with him in the Unity 08. That tends to be left of center, the folks that are promoting this idea of a candidacy of Bloomberg.
Exit question on a political probability scale of 0 to 10, 0 being zero probability and 10 meaning metaphysical absolute certitude. What's the probability that Michael Bloomberg, running as an independent without Hagel, will win the presidency in 2008? Pat.
0.
Okay, I'll put it at 4 that he gets in, but at 0.5 that he could win.
Negative 0.
Negative 0.
0.4.
The answer is 2. We'll be right back with predictions.
The McLaughlin Group is brought to you in part by SAP, software for great companies, not just great big companies. Learn more at sap.com/midsize. And by CIT, Capital Redefined.
SAP is affordable solutions for companies like ours. I have a sneaky feeling the world of high-precision electronic gas pressure gauges is about to change.
Today, for the first time ever, 90% of seniors have comprehensive prescription drug coverage. Millions of older and disabled Americans with peace of mind, thanks to Medicare's new prescription benefit. That's why leading newspapers say rushing to change Medicare would be a mistake. USA Today tells Congress put on the brakes. The Journal warns it's the last thing patients need. The Post says change is the wrong prescription. Medicare's prescription drug benefit. It's working for seniors.
Blue sky smiling at me, nothing but blue skies.
Today, there's a fuel that, when paired with advanced diesel engines, will help reduce truck emissions by 90%. And that means bluer skies and cleaner air for all of us. Introducing new ultra-low sulfur diesel. From the people who bring you oil and natural gas. Learn more at energytomorrow.org.
Will 08 be a realigning election with Democrats on top? Pat.
Partly because the Reagan Democrats have started going home. They feel betrayed by the Republicans.
Yes, not because of third parties, but because of immigration and the Republican negative view about Hispanics.
The realignment started in 2006. It's going to continue 2008.
Yes, because the Republicans are currently in disarray and the Democrats are coming together.
Yes, it started and it will enjoy fruition in 08. Bye-bye.